Hello, this is Doug Chapin with the University of Minnesota's Election Academy and Director of Election Research at Forrest Marsh Group. This video will review Section F of the 2018 Election Administration and Voting Survey, or EAVS. The goal of this section is to understand how many people participated in the general election and some of the election technologies used in your jurisdiction. You can find similar presentations for the other 5 sections of the survey on the EAVS portal and the Election Assistance Commission website. As you watch this video, you might want to follow along with the PDF version of the survey, which can be found on the Downloads page of the EAVS portal. Section F of EAVS has been changed somewhat for 2018. It was previously titled Election Day Activities, but it has been renamed to better reflect its focus, and a question on first-time voters has been removed. This section now asks for a few types of data. First, how many individuals participated in the 2018 general election, and what is the source of this data? Second, what kind of technology did your jurisdiction use to support its election efforts? And finally, do you have any information about your jurisdiction's election experience that you wish to share with the EAC? Question F1 asks about the total number of voters who participated in the 2018 election from your jurisdiction. You'll first report the total number in F1A, and then in the sub-questions, you'll break this down according to the mode of voting. A few things to keep in mind as you do this. F1B is for individuals who voted at a physical polling place on Election Day, and this should not include people who submitted a provisional ballot or who dropped off their absentee or by-mail ballot at a physical polling place. Question F1C covers UOCAVA voters. While you will have reported the number of UOCAVA ballots sent in Section B, this section is intended to capture how many of those voters cast ballots, whether using a regular ballot or the federal write-in absentee ballot. Question F1D is for voters who used a domestic civilian by-mail ballot. This should not include by-mail ballots in an all-vote-by-mail jurisdiction, as those will be covered in F1G. F1E is for individuals who submitted a provisional ballot. Rejected provisional ballots should only be included in F1E if your jurisdiction credits the provisional voter's vote history when their provisional ballot is rejected. F1F is for individuals who voted in person at an early voting location, and the total you report here should also include in-person absentee voting if it's allowed in your jurisdiction. Lastly, if your jurisdiction allows for another mode of participation that is not listed here, use F1H to record that. Not all jurisdictions will use all these voting modes. For instance, if your jurisdiction doesn't have any form of in-person early voting, you can report -88 in the Excel template or does not apply in the online template for F1F. Next, in F2, you'll report how you arrived at the numbers in F1 by identifying the source of the numbers you submitted in question F1. Different jurisdictions will have different ways of classifying their data and calculating their participation numbers, so select the option listed here that best represents your jurisdiction. You can use F2E to report if you use some other source for your data. The next part of Section F has changed slightly. The survey no longer asks about first-time voters who registered by mail. Also, the questions on electronic and paper poll books have been restructured. Many jurisdictions use printed or electronic poll books to assist in the voting process. Electronic poll books are similar to printed poll books in that they list all registered voters, but electronic poll books incorporate some type of hardware or software component. Please note that this question is about poll books only, not about any machine used to record or tally votes. You'll use F3 and F4 to record how your jurisdiction used electronic and paper poll books. Answer yes or no to whether you use these poll books to sign voters in, update voter history, or look up polling places. If you use poll books for another purpose, use F3D or F4D to record that. Unlike previous surveys, you need not report how these lists are delivered to polling places. The next set of questions concern the equipment your jurisdiction used to tabulate votes in the 2018 general election. To make reporting easier, these questions have been modified from the 2016 survey, although the information requested is largely unchanged. First, the EAC has 7 types of voting equipment it would like you to report on. Direct recording electronic devices, or DREs, allow a voter to vote using a touchscreen, monitor, wheel, or other device, and record the votes electronically on the device. Some DREs capture the votes both electronically and on a paper printout, which we call a DRE with a Voter Verified Paper Audit Trail, or VVPAT. You'll report on your jurisdiction's use of these devices in question F6. Other DREs only capture the votes electronically, which we call DREs without VVPAT. You'll report on these devices in question F5. There are also electronic voting devices that are similar to a DRE with VVPAT, but merely mark a ballot and do not tabulate votes. These devices are commonly referred to as ballot marking devices. Note that the paper record produced by these systems is tabulated by hand or in conjunction with the scanner. You'll report on ballot marking devices in F7. Scanners are devices that tabulate paper records marked by a voter by hand or via ballot marking device. These are sometimes referred to as optical scanners, but digital scanning technology is also commonly used now. Scanners can be used in precinct as well as at a central location. You'll report both types of scanners in F8. Punch card and lever machines will be reported in F9 and F10. Finally, if your jurisdiction conducts a hand count of ballots, you'll report on that in F11. For each of these types of equipment, there are a few additional items you'll report on. The first item you'll report is whether this type of equipment was used in your jurisdiction for the November 2018 election. Select Yes if any type of this equipment was in use, and No if not. If you select No, both the online and Excel templates will autofill the questions that are not applicable. For instance, if you use F7A to indicate that your jurisdiction doesn't use any ballot marking devices, then the template will automatically fill in F7B, C, and D with Not Applicable. The next thing you'll report is the make and model of the equipment you used. For these questions, we want you to focus on the manufacturer of your equipment as opposed to your vendor or service provider. For DREs with and without a VVPAT, ballot marking devices, and scanners, we have created drop-down menus with the most common makes and models of equipment. These drop-down menus will be organized alphabetically by the model name, with the make of the equipment listed in parentheses. There is also an Other option if your equipment is not already listed in the drop-down menus. For punch card and lever systems, you'll need to write in your make and model. The questions will have space for you to list up to 3 makes and models for each equipment type. If you have additional makes and models to report on, please put that information in the comments section. Use the Not Applicable or -88 option to fill in any empty make model slots, or mark as Data Not Available or -99 if you don't have information available about your equipment's make and model specification. Next, you'll report the number of machines deployed for each make and model. When reporting these numbers, you should only include machines that were actively used during the election. For instance, if your jurisdiction owned a machine but it was kept in storage throughout the voting period, it should not be included in this count. If your jurisdiction doesn't track information about the number of machines deployed, select Data Not Available or -99 as your response. Note that if you selected Not Applicable or -88 in B, the template will autofill your response to C as well. You do not need to report any equipment make, model, or count information for hand counts. Lastly, for each type of equipment, you'll report on what purposes it was used for, including in-precinct election day regular balloting, accessibility for voters with disabilities, provisional voting, in-person early voting, or counting by mail ballots. Note that not all 5 of these options are available for all equipment types, so you will not be provided those options in some questions. Given all this, we know that there are a lot of nuances in how jurisdictions use their voting equipment. We encourage you to use the comments box appended to these questions to note any item where you feel like the options don't quite capture your jurisdiction accurately. Question F12 is about the location where votes are tallied in your jurisdiction. We're interested in knowing where the ballot is tabulated, not the import of that tabulation into the jurisdiction's results management system. For instance, a DRE that's in a polling place tabulates in the precinct or polling place, whether or not the aggregation of the results from all DREs is processed at a central location. You'll break this down by the categories of use discussed previously. There are 4 options you can select from. If your vote tallies take place in a centralized location, like a county election office, select Central Location. If your votes are tallied in the location they're cast or returned to, select Precinct or Polling Location. If your jurisdiction uses a mixture of both, select both Central and Precinct Location. You may use the Not Applicable option for any type of voting not in use in your jurisdiction, such as if you don't have provisional ballot voting or in-person early voting. For each of the 5 equipment uses from the previous question grid, use these categories to report where you tallied the votes. The final question in Section F is about your jurisdiction's experiences during the 2018 general election, particularly about topics that haven't already been covered in the EAVS. You can use this question to pass along anything you'd like the EAC to know about your experiences, your challenges, and your successes in this election. Use as much space as you'd like. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. We encourage you to carefully read through each section before answering any of the questions to ensure you're accurately reporting your jurisdiction's data. The easiest way to view the survey and its instructions is by accessing the PDF version of the 2018 survey on the Downloads page of the EAVS portal. We also encourage you to use the comment boxes for each question to provide us with additional information and context. This will help us analyze and report your data accurately. If you need additional assistance, please don't hesitate to contact us at EAVS@forestmarshgroup.com. All emails sent to that address will be answered within 1 business day. Thank you, and we appreciate your time and your contributions to the 2018 EAVS survey.